a commitment to myself and to the spirits to be around me that any record I made, I wanted to be able to listen to 15 years later and said I did my best. So there's no one song on most of my records. Almost, if you listen to really any of my music, all the songs have different rhythmic patterns. It's a different rhythm pattern almost for every song. It might be a slight variation, but it's not like ching, I'm playing bebop, ching ching ding behind the songs. I'm actually playing different rhythm patterns on the drums, which is what I did. I stopped playing the cymbals a lot and just started playing rhythm patterns on the drums. So Man Dance is that. And also on that record is a song called I was sitting out, I wrote it when I got to the airport. They were building the DFW airport at that time. The flag post they had put up, but wasn't no flag on it. And the chain was hitting the pole. And it's a ballad on that road. I can't remember the name of it now. But I played bass flute. I bought a bass flute by then, because at that time I was making money. And I was buying all these different, and I bought a C oboe, an Italian-made C oboe, and I played on Man Dance. And I bought a bass flute, and I bought I think I bought by then an alto flute too, and different kind of drums and all that kind of stuff. Because I was experimenting with what I could, how to enhance the music, what I could do to make the music better. We made Man Dance when we came off tour, and sold it to Ireland, and they put it out, and it generated so much publicity. It was, I think her name was Linda Smith. I think she still works with U2. Well, they had signed her to work with Decoding Society. And she took me out to dinner at a Japanese restaurant one afternoon. She said, you have generated millions of dollars in advertising. We're spending $1 million on Maryland Faithful. And I had run into Maryland Faithful one day. That's when she came up with the conversation.
Marianne Faithful?
Yeah, Marianne Faithful. I ran into her. She got on the elevator. I just walked in the elevator, and here she coming with a limousine coming up, parked there, and she coming, And she said, we're spending $1 million to advertise her, and you're generating $1 million, because they had clips from newspapers from Mississippi, from Kentucky, from Iowa, from Ohio. The record was selling all over the planet. The record sold so well that when I got to Japan, when I got off the plane, these people had a bunch of flowers, and they took me, and they had took me to this place where they had a big long table full of sushi and all these people from different magazines from all over Japan. And I'm doing this interview, and I'm wondering what the hell's going on, because I wasn't there to play no music. I went there to go to Shohondo, which was the Buddhist temple. And I get to my room, there was all these flowers in my room. But when I was sitting there, I said, that was the first time also, because they asked me straight out to say, did you ever you used to play with Albert Al? I said, yeah. Did you ever make a record playing with Albert Al? I said, no. And then they would start laughing, hee. And then the man went back and come out, and he had 2 albums, Live as Slugs, Volume 1 and 2. I'd never seen them, right? They sound horrible sounding. But I remember when the fella made those records, made that tape, because it's an old wire machine. But then I said, well, something's going on. What's going on here? I said, well, how many records did I sell? And so they went back, and they came back and said, well, to date, and the record's been out for 6 months, you sold 4,300 or 4,700, something like that. And I wanted to sink up under the table. I said, only 4,000? He said, well, any jazz record that sells over 3,000 in 1 year in Japan is considered a hit. You have sold 4,000 and something in 6 months. Now, put that with this. I come back to New York, I tell David Breskin. He calls, they verify it and tell him, yeah, they had sold 4,000 and some records already in Japan. He tells Ireland and asks Ireland how many records, he didn't tell them though, he go to Ireland, how many records did Shannon sell in Japan? It took them 6 months to come back from England and told him we had sold 1,200. That's when I started understanding, getting the lowdown on the music, on the record industry, what's really going on, Because for them to say that we had only sold 1,200 a year later, when we had already sold over 4,000 in 6 months, is a big difference. Several years later, after I had made Barbecue Dog, I never knew that Aiko Ishioka had won Best Album Cover in England until I was sitting in England at Island Records. And the fellow there told me, say, well, Barbecue Dog won the album cover that year. And it was one of the top selling records in England.
Barbecue Dog was.
Barbecue Dog was. And Man Dance had been also, but they never told me. You know, but I understood because Coltrane had sold over 1 million copies of Love Supreme, and they never told him. It was much. They told him, but it was much later when everybody else had already found out because they wasn't going to tell him.
That was Columbia, right? Or Impulse?
That was ABC. ABC. What's that? Imperial?
That was Impulse.
No, no, Impulse. It might have been Impulse.
Some of his records came out
on Impulse. It might have been that. Was Impulse distributed through ABC?
I have no idea.
Because I think there was ABC, but they, you know, it's a long history of them not telling black musicians how many records they sold because they don't want to pay the royalties. Now, who's getting that money? That's when a fellow one time explained to me. He said, "Look, Island and other record companies, Columbia, all of them can have 10 or 12 artists like yourself. And what y'all do is y'all pay the records y'all make, pay the money to keep the staff running, pay the telephone bills, pay the rent. And in my particular case with Island, they can go along and pay those kind of salaries because them employees working in record companies, they live very well. The musicians ain't making no money. And then if you got a group like U2, that's what takes them over the top. But they don't never have to give us an accounting of the figures we sold, records we sold. And they got this thing, this scam thing too. That's a scam too. That's nothing but a scam. All of it's a scam. You know? I mean, I look at it just the same way as I've always looked at that lie about black people are supposed to be 12% of the population since 1864. That means we ain't had no babies. Do y'all understand that? Somebody is not accounting right. But Arthur Anderson has already proved that, right, lately, right? I mean, how are we going to be 12% of the population all this time? Japanese come in, they multiply. The Koreans come in, they multiply. The Mexicans come in, multiply. Black people ain't multiplied? No, I think there's something wrong with the people who are doing accounting. That's all I got to say about that. But check it out.